Hey guys, it's Nessy here. About a year ago, I made a Thief HandKite build for Deimos, and around half a year later, I found an AI bug allowing me to tank HandKite at the same time keeping Deimos in place and preventing his pizza attack. I've recently had a ton of people asking me on how to run the HandKite build, so today I'll be going in detail on how to use this build in Deimos. Note that through a large amount of patches, this build has undergone through some changes in the trait lines, including the fact that we no longer have a 33% damage reduction while in stealth. That being said though, doesn't change much at all honestly, so it's perfectly viable. That being said, let's have a look at the build. For this build you'll be running Sword Pistol. Now you can run Dagger Pistol or Pistol Pistol, however there isn't really much of a reason. I run Sword because of one trait, and that's the only reason why I have this over any of the other weapons. For my stats, I run Magi's. I run it for all my gear, including my weapons. For my trinkets, I run Minstrels, just to basically get enough toughness. Now, I usually like to run below 1.4 toughness. That's usually what my tanks have. However, if you have a tank that has really high toughness, it's kind of up to you on how much you want to run. I just like to run this as a base number whenever I'm in pubs. Including my ring and my amulet, which actually would have been Magi's. However, I actually don't have Magi's rings or amulets, which I probably should get. However, I noticed that it doesn't really change too much. However, it probably would make my survivability even better. So at the moment, I only have it for my back piece, my 2 accessories, as well as one of my rings. For my ruins, I am running Sanctuary Ruins. This is really handy because every small amount of healing you'll get a little bit of barrier. And the fact that you don't actually need too much healing in this build is great because your HP will usually be quite high up. So that being said, if your HP is full, there is no real point of healing it. So I like to run Sanctuary to just get a little extra barrier on top to mitigate some extra damage, just because my HP is usually very high anyway. And then for my sigils, I'll be running Renewal. This is really handy because when I weapon swap, that extra little healing can sometimes help me survive a little bit longer, and will also proc my Sanctuary. And for my other weapon, I have Energy. This is a must. This is very, very important. Weapon swapping halfway through to get back an extra bar of endurance is a must in this build, especially because all we basically do in this build is dodge. So this is really handy. You really need this for this build. Renewal is kind of up to you. You can run a different one if you want, but Energy is a must. So let's have a look at the traits. So the first one we have is Shadow Arts, next we have Acrobatics, and lastly we have Daredevil. In Shadow Arts we run 3-1-2, Acrobatics we have 1-2-2, and Daredevil we have 2-2-3. I'm not going to go through what every trait does, so please look at that in your own time. As for my utilities, I am running Channeled Vigor, Shadow Refuge, Lightning Powder, Bandit's Defense, and Dagger Storm. This is a really good heal as it gives you more endurance if you need to for dodging. Shadow Refuge is good for that extra backup for stealth, although I don't really need it. I usually put it down whenever I feel like it. Lightning Powder can also be swapped off with Agility Signet, or Signet of Agility, if you need more dodges. However, usually with my Sigil of Energy, I usually find that to be enough. So Blinding Powder is really good to just do a Black Powder followed by a Blinding Powder, which will give you 7 seconds of stealth. Next one is Bandit's Defense, which is important to block. You really, really need this. If you don't have it, you're dead. And lastly, this is kind of like your backup if you need to have a lot of dodges in one place. For example, when the team is coming back up from Soul and the hands are starting to go into the middle, and for some reason you're stacking a second layer of hands, Dagger Storm is kind of like your backup if everything just starts to move and you can't react in time. So without further ado, let's look at Deimos. So the way that this build works is that you'll be basically dodging through your black powders, which will give you stealth, and if done correctly with all your other skills, you'll be able to upkeep perma-stealth, which will give you healing constantly, as well as barrier. Now this build can stack 5 hands, however it won't be exactly doing it by once. It's a little odd because what you'll be doing is you'll be stacking 3 hands, you'll be dodging left to drop 1 left to it, and you'll be dodging back onto the previous hands, which will drop 1 more, meaning that there'll be 4 hands and then 1 next to it. If you repeat the same thing on the right, it'll be then 5 hands and then 4 hands, and then same thing, 5 and then 4. So let's have a look at how this will work. So for my opener, I drop a Shadow Refuge to get my stealth, and then I use my elite to evade everything. This will basically just allow me to put 5 stacks on top straight away. And again, I just use some Shadow Steps to get my healing. Here I drop down 3, I dodge again, and I drop an extra 1 back on star. So again, the same thing, I'm going to wait for it. 2, 3, there's a third one, I dodge back, and again I have 4 hands on top of that one and 1 drop back on the other, meaning 5. So every single time that you do this, it's going to be the same thing, except you're just going to be rotating between your skills to have more of an uptime for yourself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in detail and tell you how I basically evade everything without getting hurt in a very calm manner. So when it comes to hands, I like to look at it as a piece of music, kind of like a rhythm, and it basically will go up to 6 notes. So it will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this basically correlates with how many hands will pop. But there are only 5 hands that pop, so what's the 6th one for? Well, the 6th one is when you need to actually get out of that dodge before it procs again. So hands, when they appear, they won't proc on you straight away. It's only on the second beat that it happens. Meaning that the moment that you see the very first hand, you will take no damage. What we're going to do is we're going to stack 3 hands. Right before the 4th one happens, we're going to dodge it. That'll proc our evade correctly. And then right before the 5th one comes up, we're going to evade back onto the right. And then we're going to leave before the 6th one happens. So in this example, you can see we have 1, 2, 3. I'm going to dodge before the 4th one ticks, and I'm going to dodge back before the 5th one ticks. And before the 6th one will happen, I'll be at the very edge over there. And we're basically going to be doing this throughout the whole entire fight. So we're going to look at another example. We've got 1, 2, 3, dodge before the 4th, dodge before the 5th, and for the 6th we're going to be out of the edge. You can see throughout the stealth that we have, we're getting a ton of healing, we don't need to worry about it, and I'm just using Sword 2 just to heal me a little bit extra with the downtime. So that's basically it for what to do for the hands. Apart from that, everything else is just depending on the skills and utils that you use. Now, I will remind you, these clips that I've been using, this is for Deimos CM. So the difference is that you will not have the banner for you, which will basically not give you any protection. So you will lose a lot more HP. But I decided to use a clip like this because I want to be just a little bit more interesting instead of just having the regular Deimos, and for you to see me struggle a little bit more in something a little bit more interesting. So over here you can see that I've used my block and I've dropped the 5th one over here, which is fine. I'm just using a bit of my pistol whip just to evade some of the damage. And here you can see that I do it once more time. I drop over here because I'm losing my timing. So what I plan to do this time is I actually use my pistol whip to negate the first 2 and then dodge the last 2 on that hit as well. So you can see I'm back to the start just from using my pistol whip and ignoring my first dodge. And then here you can see I'm back to the very beginning of where I'm meant to be. I'm glad that the Renegade over here is giving me some boons, some protect. It just makes it a little bit more easier for me to survive for the CM. So you can see here again, I've just blocked some of the damage before the mine wreck, and therefore I don't have to use all of my dodges. So again, I'm just going to do this once more, and you can see that right at the end I've used my blinding powder just to get that extra area stealth. 3, 4, and dodge again, and perfect. You can see the hands moving. Now I'm just collecting a few of the heals from the tablet. So you can see here I'm getting a little bit too close to the boss, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to dodge back again to the left side before the 6th one, and that way I can start going the other way. I can start going clockwise instead of anti. You see over here, so you can see I've procced my 50% evade 2 seconds. So again, I didn't really need to dodge, but I always forget that, but it's good for some safety. So this right here was a very dangerous situation. I block the mine wreck, which is perfect, but then I dodge a little bit too early, so the 5th one actually clips me on the very far edge instead of stacking on top. So I dropped to very low HP, having to use my heal. I notice that I'm constantly taking ticking damage. So I dodge and dagger storm all the way to the end. Quickly notice that the boss is moving, so I have to go back to start. I pop a Shadow Refuge, but I don't want to dodge outside of it, so I use Pistol Whip to dodge the first few hands. dodge back, and then dodge back front. And now I'm back to full HP. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that was informative enough. For those that wanted to learn this, I hope that you now know how to play it and that you can actually kill Deimos running this purely as not only a great meme, but actually a very viable build for it as well. At the moment, I'm creating a rifle Deadeye HandKite. I've kind of got it like 90% working, but I'm tweaking a few things here and there. It may seem impossible, but like I said, I'm pretty sure I can get it working eventually. It does really good damage, as well as the ability to HandKite, which is amazing. But I really love making these builds. It's so fun to design something in the community that, you know, no one really plays. And it's just nice to see a reaction and seeing something that people didn't think was possible actually viable. So I hope that you enjoy this video. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I have my Discord name in the description below, so if you want to hit me up with anything regarding Thief, please do. But hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys around in raids.